Welcome back to the Lift Free and Diet Hard podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Coates. Join me along with industry leaders and friends on a quest to get more people through the gym door and eating and living healthier. Join me where evidence meets empathy while rejecting fitness industry fads and extremism. Let's begin. Storey Gordon. This is one of my favorite things where many of my guests are actually good friends of mine. They've been on before, but you and I have been on social media for quite a while. But this is sort of my selfish opportunity to actually spend some time talking to you. You're the founder of ESG Fitness. You're a fat loss and behavior change expert. You are a mentor of fitness professionals as well. So welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. I'm really excited for this, and thanks for having me on.
Well, I got some quotes pulled from your media because these are great. So I like this one, actually. This will be a nice deep dive. Quote, 2 weeks ago, I realized my energy levels were crap. My ADHD symptoms were unmanageable and my mood was consistently low. It's the opposite of how you normally felt. What was going on?
Do you know what? And this is so basic, but it was like the obvious stuff. And I tend to find this happens. You basically get like creep towards like the average or creep towards like lower standards than you would like of yourself. And I would just going to bed later and later. Didn't have a good like morning routine anymore, was waking up later, didn't have enough time for myself, I really like short, sharp workouts, and maybe we will talk about that at some point. But you could take the piss. So like, I like a short, sharp workout. I rarely train for over 30 minutes, but these were getting down to like 15 minutes and like really not, looking after myself. So it was just the basics, and it's like calling yourself out. I think what that post was about, or probably the most useful point, is that I feel completely different after a week. And it's not like I've done something insane. It's just actually being strict with my bedtime, getting in more sleep, actually finding time to exercise. I'm very bad for skipping lunch. So like sitting down and actually having lunch instead of just being like, oh, cram something in between meetings. And then before you know it, like a protein bar is your lunch every day. And you're like, yeah. And then you wonder why you feel like shit. Yeah, it's that. It's all the basic stuff.
Well, you framed the post as your energy plan. And I like the concept, right? So as opposed to these things being these separate nebulous things, it's actually a plan. And I would argue, I would love to hear your thoughts on this, that one of the reasons why most people struggle is they live reactively and they do not plan or prepare ahead. And I think that's maybe one of those powerful levers. So that's what you did, I trust.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the energy side as well, this is something I'm really passionate about, and how I coach my clients is I work with a lot of perimenopausal women, but this applies to everybody, right? Like a lot of people struggle with low energy, they're stressed at work, they've got a lot on their plate. They're also trying to diet at the same time. And it's just like one extra thing that they have to do. And the hardest time to lose fat is when you're already absolutely exhausted. And you're like, now I'm trying to force myself to stick to these low calories. So if you can just take a step back and focus on the things that are going to make you feel good so that you've got some energy, then after that, fat loss becomes simple. And often after that, you're doing all the right things to lose fat anyway. So you lose fat as the byproduct of the fact that you've done some changes to your life that mean that you're fueling yourself better, you're sleeping better, you're exercising, you're taking the time to focus on like improving those energy levels. And really, a lot of it is just a different way of looking at it so that you feel good. And once you feel good, it's a hell of a lot easier to then lose fat if fat loss is your goal.
This episode is brought to you by Macros First. I've always struggled with nutrition tracking apps, even the slightest hassle or friction, and it breaks my habit. That changed with Macros First. When I tried it, I told my friend, the founder, Jacob, quote, this is, well, let's just call it a certain other app on steroids. It's the easiest app to use, and it has a free barcode scanner, which if you use tracking apps, you know this is a really big deal. I recommend Macros First to all my clients and friends, and even had them sponsor my 2024 conference. Here's an example feature I love: auto-calculate food portions. Let's say you've got 30 grams of protein left for the day, and you're thinking, how much chicken breast do I need to hit that? In other apps, you're left guessing serving sizes, hoping you get close to your 30-gram goal. With Macros First, just tell it the target you want to hit, and it tells you exactly how much to eat. No more macro Tetris. Other apps ask, how much do you eat? Macros First also lets you ask, how much should I eat? And while Macros First's premium version is incredible for any user, the basic version, which is nowhere near basic, is free to use. So you can go to either the Apple Store or Google Play to download.
You also mentioned one of the things in the post that you were working unproductively. What did that look like? And was that a symptom of the other behaviors, or was that also causal for why your energy wasn't good?
That's a good question. Probably a little bit of both. For me, it's like, I don't know if you get this, but when you're doing something and you're always thinking about something else, and even though you're kind of half getting stuff done, you're like, is there something else I could be doing? And it's when I know that like my ADHD symptoms are worse because I just can't really focus on the one thing. Whereas normally I'm quite good at focusing, being really excited, getting that thing done and then moving on to the next thing. It would just felt like I'd sit down and do work and I'd open up a million like hypothetical tabs in my head, but never actually close any of them, never finish anything, and always kind of feel like on edge about all the stuff I had to do.
I call them open loops, and I've heard other people refer to this as well. And when you have those open loops, if there's enough of them, you outright forget things that are actually pretty important, and that creates stress. Or, as you pretty much described, and I'll paraphrase, this nebulous sense of things unfinished. Or you're very fixated on specific things. There was something recently where I had these 3 open loops. There was a repair being done on a piece of my gym equipment, and there was an outstanding, a bit of money that was owed to me. And there was a third thing that is slipping my mind. Part of it was people weren't getting back to me. Oh, it was something with there was a miscommunication with something with business. And so I wasn't hearing back. And so it was sort of worrying. Part of it is I have to put a pin in it and be stoic and say, okay, just take a big deep breath. This will get resolved. But whenever I have open loops, it's for me is writing them down. Right? That's the thing, is get it on paper. If I have a to-do list, I have a clear idea of the things, and then I can actually put them out of my immediate frame and I can focus on what I'm doing. Do you do something similar?
Yeah, exactly. Same. I'm in a similar position with like, it's always annoying things like you're waiting to get this gym equipment done, or one of my tenants isn't paying rent. And so it's like, now I've done the same thing as what you kind of suggest. It's like, I've written it down. I've done my part. Now I'm waiting. But I'm very much a person who loves to close a loop. So I'm like, if something's, I'd rather just finish that thing. Like I know a lot of people are good at starting things and not finishing them. Like I'm quite good at finishing things because I like it to be like, now I don't need to think about that because it's done. So it's annoying when it's out of your control and you're like, there's an open loop and it can't close and it's going to be like in my subconscious. And that's, annoying. But you're right. It's better. Once you write it down and you're like, what can I action? Okay, I've actioned that part. Now the ball's in their court. Now I just wait until it comes back.
This episode is brought to you by Just Bite Me Meals. I work long days and I won't compromise my client experience or sacrifice my workout, sleep, or nutrition. So I needed a quality and reliable meal prep service so I could save time on cooking and shopping and have more time for the stuff that matters. Net out the cost of groceries, and the service isn't as much as you might think. And regular impulsive food delivery apps, eating out, that costs way more anyway. I get more meal variety and less dishes to clean, and I've been referring clients to Just Bite Me Meals for a long time, and I recently started ordering myself. Food is great. The beef brisket tacos are my favorite so far, and there's a lot of menu choice. Your calories and macros are listed. The portions are great. You can order custom meals. They deliver to your door, or you can pick up from their storefront. And I'm sorry to listeners outside of Alberta, but Just Bite Me Meals is currently just in Edmonton, Calgary, Grand Prairie, and Fort McMurray. Ordering from Just Bite Me Meals made my life easier instantly. And you can get 10% off on all your orders using my code, Andrew Coates Fitness, all caps, on their website. That's Andrew Coates Fitness, all capitals, or go to the link and the code in the show notes.
Going back to planning, and you mentioned how it's like one more thing that creates stress for people, but we think about all the things people do and that they will do, the essentials or the non-essentials. What's the story that most people tell themselves about planning that makes it into this big deal and there's resistance?
I think people overcomplicate it. I think they think that they need to have some kind of technology or process or what's the optimal way to plan or how should I structure this or something. I'm like, just write it down. Whatever works for you is the best plan. Like, I don't know about you, but I've tried many different things and I come back to Google Calendar and then having a little note section in my notes. That's it. Just keep it simple. And then I always have a scrap bit of paper in front of me. Like those 3 things, fine. And I've tried a million things and you end up spending more time planning than actually, that being benefit is now actually just another thing on your to-do list to make your plan look all nice. But it doesn't really matter if it looks nice. Like, are you going to do it or not?
Do you think some people fear planning because then it's like almost having calories to track or anything to follow, because all of a sudden it's restrictive and they build up this big narrative about the restriction, and it revokes permission to do whatever people want. Do you come across that?
I guess there might be people that feel like that, but I think the autonomy is like you're making your own plan. You get to decide what you want to do, what you don't want to do, what you want to move, what you want to cross off that list. So it should be quite a freeing thing. And it's so much of this. And as you know, with diet and exercise and just anything you want to achieve in life, you can see the exact same actions as really restrictive and almost like oppressive, or, oh my God, I get to do these things. Like, say you do have a fat loss goal. I know a lot of people listening will have some kind of body composition goal. You can either look at tracking calories as this really restrictive thing that you have to do because you're on a diet and it feels horrible, and you're almost like victim mentality mindset around it. Or you could be like, cool, this is a tool that I get to use because I've got this goal and it's going to help me get there. So I get to use this app and track my calories. It's the same action, but one person will be so much more successful than the other person.
Now, going back to, all the things you were doing that left you feeling bad and low energy, and then the flip, you were able to flip that switch and you had a plan. How do you open the conversation with the person who doesn't have good boundaries around sleep, staying up too late, is skipping meals, isn't working out, but they're not able to flip a switch like you? How do you open the door to that conversation?
So this is really common. And I think it's especially hard. And, I noticed this in myself, and I'm lucky that this is my job. I kind of know this stuff, but the time you need to change is often when you feel the worst and you have the lowest motivation. So I think for a lot of people, instead of then trying to be like, I'm going to do 5 gym sessions or I'm going to do this, like actually starting quite small and then increasing that slowly. And partly because once you do a little bit, you do start to feel better. Like once you are like, right, do you know what, even if I just focus on getting to bed early, then after 3 days, I'm going to try and start doing a little bit of exercise in the morning. And then after that, I'm going to go back to the gym. By the time you get to that point, you will be hungry for it because you have slept better, because you do have more energy, because that does drive motivation and mood. And then actually we know that exercise is going to increase mood even more. And then you're probably going to want to fuel yourself better and eat better. So it's all about building that momentum. And that's what I would suggest if someone's like, I just really I can't even think about doing that because I have such low motivation because I feel so crap. I'm almost put that on pause and just I'm just going to do these really basic things for 3 days. That's all I'm committing to. Don't think too far ahead. But trust me, within 3 days, you'll start to feel so much better. And then after that, you can start building on it.
If someone had the capacity to just change one of those things that would have the most outsized return to create room for the other things, what would you tell them to do first?
It probably depends on what someone's struggling with most, but sleep.
Yeah, that's
if you're not sleeping, sleep. If you're already sleeping well, then getting more is not really going to do anything for you. Then I would say exercise. And I would talk about minimal effective dose of exercise as well. You don't have to be doing a full gym workout to get the benefit of it. But yeah, I think first and foremost, sleep, because everything is easier when you've slept well.
Another quote: the modern world is perfectly set up for you to gain weight. Why?
Why is it set up?
Yes. Why?
Yeah. Okay, so the normal things of we live in an obesogenic environment. It's so easy to get food. It's so easy to get very highly caloric food. In fact, it's easier to get fast food, junk foods than it is to get whole food and cook it yourself and eat well. And then we also don't have to move at all. And it's not even that we don't have to move. It's actually quite hard to, depending on where you live, get out and be active. And if you're someone who works at home and works on a laptop and then doesn't need to go anywhere to get food, it's very easy to do almost no activity and eat in abundance. And then on top of that, you've got the fact that especially if you're a woman and you're anywhere kind of on the smaller side of being a woman, your energy demands are actually very low. And then even just eating a bit is if you're not moving at all, you're just very, very easily going to be eating in a surplus.
This one's been coming up a lot. Our thoughts align closely. Let's dive in. Again, if modern society, activity levels, food serving size is making larger men gain body fat and creep into metabolic unhealth, what's it doing to women who are on average smaller, especially the really small ones? What are your thoughts on, this might be a bit blunt, but I feel like because of marketing, and I always use the example of some of the popular TV show examples. I love using Sex and the City and Carrie Bradshaw and how unrealistic that is. And these women drink a lot of alcohol and they're out dining and what have you. And sure, okay, they're walking around New York, but they're all largely staying pretty small. Now, I think a lot of women may feel entitled, and that's a tricky word, but I'll use the word entitled, to be able to eat all the things and not gain the weight. What do you say to all that?
Yeah, I would agree. And I agree that entitled isn't like quite the right word, and maybe it's not this either, but there's almost like a victim mentality of like, well, I should be able to do that. And I don't know if that is a bit of a kickback from anti-diet culture and like, you should be able to eat whatever you want. And it's kind of similar to be saying like, well, we should be able to spend whatever we want. And it's like, well, you'll end up in debt or you'll end up overweight. Like, that's just the reality of it. And it's interesting when you're comparing like smaller women to a man or something, like with Sex and the City, they're going out on dates and they're having the same meals, right? Or the same portion sizes. And that's something we never think about. Like, even sitting here, like you probably need close to double the calories that I need to stay at maintenance, or maybe not far off, right? At least a couple of thousand calories more than I need. Bear in mind, I'm not overly active. But yeah, if we go out for dinner, we'd probably have the same meal or the same size meal, right? You might order a bit more, but like in general, they wouldn't be like, oh, that's a small woman, let's give her like slightly less, right? And obviously then people would be in uproar and that'd be a whole sexist thing. But the reality is like we do need less food. And then if we do get the same portion sizes of really tasty restaurant food, and I have to use my willpower to, not finish that meal and leave a little bit there, and there's all the psychology behind that, or like I've paid for the meal, I want to finish it. And it is harder. It's harder for smaller women, for sure. But I do think you're right that there is that kind of mentality of like, well, I should be able to do that. Or like, just because I'm only 5 foot and that person's 5'7" doesn't mean I should have to eat less. And it's like, well, that is reality. Yeah, you do. All other things being equal, you will have to eat less to maintain a healthy weight.
I suppose if we're talking about going out restaurant meals in social settings, it's probably not that hard for a smaller woman, to actually enjoy that meal, same portion size, if the rest of her nutrition is more in line with her needs, right? Like, I think that makes sense. So this goes into another quote. We are led to believe
I would argue no, because the average meal out in the UK is 1,200 calories.
Okay.
So
how often are women having those meals, I guess, is the argument, right?
Yeah.
If it's multiple times a week, sure, that's a problem.
Yeah, exactly. If you're going up to dinner twice a week or something, and let's say it is 1,000 calorie meal or just over 1,000 calorie meal, and for a lot of smaller women, like their maintenance needs are maybe 1,700. Okay, so what, you've got 700 calories for the rest of the day? That's really hard to stick to. Now, I know that you can average things out over the week, of course, but it's still that means you have to eat less on another day.
And that's where the problem lies. So this goes into this part now. And I like this quote: we are led to believe that we should never feel hungry. So I think part of the quote entitlement, for lack of a better word, is that, well, I should be able to have snacks every night while I'm watching television, right? On top of having delicious meals, which delicious doesn't necessarily mean, but usually correlates with higher calorie food. So I think some people think that in their mind, all of their food that they eat needs to be really delicious. And then, well, they also should never feel hungry. So talk to me about your thoughts on all that.
So I think that part of that is a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek push against intuitive eating, or the idea that our body will just tell us what it needs and we could just eat intuitively. Now, that might be slightly more true if you were eating just whole foods. But when you're eating like really highly palatable, moreish foods that taste amazing and they're designed to make you want more, then you can't just listen to hunger or listen to like cravings. And on top of that, I would say that there is this, obviously we all have this biological drive to eat, right? It's literally what's made us survive. And now that we have so much food in front of us, if we always listen to that drive to eat, you will overeat. The natural preset will be that you overeat. Some people even more so than others, because some people have this stronger drive to eat than other people have. And we know that from genetic testing and certain genes that predispose people to being hungrier. So to then say, yeah, but also everyone should eat intuitively. It's like quite a message, especially with the food choices. I think it's both of those things for me, that it's the drive to eat, which in my opinion, and like I think there's decent research to back this up, but I know that people have other arguments on this. I think that all humans, or at least the vast, vast, vast majority of humans, will be predisposed to eat more than what they need. Their drive to eat is more than what they need, because that was always a survival. Like that would make you survive in times of there not being food available, which until relatively recently, when we look at genetic history, is, it's only relatively recently that we've had this abundance of food as opposed to scarce food supply. So previously, there would have been this huge advantage to eating as much as possible when that food was available, so that we would get through periods of time when food wasn't available. That's obviously not an advantage anymore. So there's that side. And then now we have loads and loads of tasty food. So you're obviously going to want to eat more of that.
How do you have the conversation with someone who is struggling with the reality that they can't have all of the tasty food and remain lean and metabolically healthy long term?
I think for some people it is a bit of a hard realization, but in some ways not so much, because look, that's true for every area of life. I can't just like spend all my money and then get upset about the fact that I spent all my money, or I can't just like decide that I should intuitively work and then get upset about the fact that I didn't do enough work to get the result that I wanted. It's like, well, if you want this result, like this is what it's going to cost you. And there's no, people will say, well, that's not fair because that person can eat more than me. I'm like, but life isn't fair. Whether it's fair or not almost doesn't matter. It's like you have different cards dealt. There might also be benefits to being a smaller person, but that's just the way that it is, and maybe your food bill's less. I don't know, but there will be positives on either side. And if you think it's unfair, it doesn't really change the reality.
You've now twice used the financial analogy, which of course is a great analogy, which, it sounds brilliant and logical, but then we also have a society that is overwhelmingly drowning in consumer debt and not responsible financially. So it's like, how well does that message land with the same demographic?
It is interesting. And I had a discussion with someone about this, because they were like, I think it's too simplistic to compare calories to like your bank balance. So a lot of people use that analogy just to help people kind of understand this stuff. And I would argue that it's not too simplistic, because there's so much psychology on both sides. Like, you don't just eat because you're hungry. You eat because you're sad. You eat because of social occasions. You eat when you're stressed, or you don't eat when you're stressed, or you eat. There's so many reasons that people, much like there's so many reasons that people spend money. It's not always logical. In fact, it's rarely logical. You're spending money to impress other people. You're spending money because you are heartbroken. You're spending money to avoid feeling something, or for status. Like, it doesn't always make logical sense either, or because you've been exposed to some advert on TV, much like with eating. Like, oh, why do I suddenly fancy a steak tonight? It's like, well, there's been an advert on TV around that. Or why do I want a McDonald's? It's like, you just drove past a McDonald's sign. All these things come into it. There's so much psychology between both. So I actually think that's why it makes it quite a strong analogy, is that for both of those things, you want to be able to learn the skill of pausing and being like, why am I choosing this? Does it align with my goals? Whether that's, why am I buying this pair of shoes? Do I actually need them? Does it align with my goals? Am I doing it for another reason? Am I doing it to impress someone? Am I doing it to numb some kind of pain that I'm feeling, where I think if I just buy myself something nice, then I'll feel better? Or like, why am I eating this ice cream? Is it because I genuinely want some and I'm going to enjoy it? Or is it because I'm trying to avoid feeling that thing? Or I'm stressed, or even mindlessly, I'm just kind of eating this ice cream because it's here, as opposed to because I actually want to enjoy it. So I think it's quite a strong analogy for that reason.
I agree too. So there's something underlying here, and you mentioned logic. So I have a theory that I don't think that we make almost any logical decisions. Even the ones that are superficially logical are really emotional under the surface. Great example, the person who, buys the Volvo because of its safety rating on a car. Well, okay, logical argument is, and the socially acceptable public facing answer is, well, I want a safe car for my kids usually, right? But the emotion is, I want to keep my kids safe. Now that's also socially acceptable. So have you ever read the Boron letters? We're getting into kind of copywriting stuff here. It's a famous and old, and there's definitely some off-color comments in there, but it's a famous copywriting book. And one of the sections, this guy, is a guy who's in jail. He's a copywriter in jail. There's something goofy there. And he's writing it to his son and all these lessons about being a great copywriter. And he talks about how if you ask people, one of the examples was, who likes going to see plays? Who thinks going to see plays are better than movies? And, most people put up their hands. But then he asks, well, who's gone and seen a play in the last month? None of them. And who's gone and seen a movie in the last month? And most of the hands go up. And so people will tell you one thing, which is the post-rationalization, the best forward, public-facing, what makes me look good explanation for all our behavior. And that's going to be nutritional behavior, especially financial behavior. But then don't pay attention to what they say. Pay attention to where they vote with their dollars. So bringing this back, what do you think about that when it comes to nutritional behavior and food choices? Do you think there's a difference between what people will say is the reason why they're eating the way they do and what's really driving it?
Yeah, probably. And I don't know if many people know that. Even with the Volvo thing, or how you spend your money, I think that there's so much interesting psychology behind that, because people will think, no, I'm just buying these shoes because I want them or because they look nice or because something, but there's normally another reason that they're spending money in that way.
You said status. And I think that's underpinning a lot of it is status behavior. But just people, it's not, you don't want to say, oh, I'm doing this because I want status, but status is one of the most fundamental underlying human.
Yeah. And actually what's interesting is it's even true if you're like, oh, I'm buying like a Ferrari, or someone else is like, I don't care about status, I'm buying a Volvo. But actually status is also, I'm the kind of person that drives a Volvo and I care about the environment, or I care about my family, or I care about safety. So they're both status signals.
Punk rock is still, as much as it's anti-establishment, it's its own kind of clear tribal ideological affiliation signaling, right?
Yeah.
So, I wonder to what degree this might underpin some nutritional lifestyle behavior. Do you think that
I wonder if it's more related to things like veganism or, like extremes where people identify with it? I wonder if there's more of that underlying that's thinking, well, why are you really doing that? Or why do you want people to know that you eat in that way? What do you think that says about you? Why is that kind of almost part of your personality and you kind of have it as like a symbol that means something to you?
Belonging to a tribe. It's classic. It shows up now. I mean, it used to be religion and various other sort of things, a lot of social stuff, but now you're part of the carnivore tribe. You're part of the keto tribe. I mean, if anybody's ever met a keto person, what are they? They're evangelical. They want their coworkers and family members to adopt the tribal ideology. And I actually have a theory that part of that is because of an insecure belief about their own adherence and place in it. So therefore, if they can actually create more adherence around them and other people, it actually validates their decision.
Yeah. Have you noticed this? I don't know if it's just like my algorithm, but I found that people who move to Dubai do this a lot. So I don't know, like it might be different in America, right? But a lot of British coaches will move to Dubai because it's tax haven. And then they need to tell you why they're moving there and why it's so much better than the UK. And they'll do a lot of things that are like, look at this that happened in the UK that would never happen in Dubai. Or look, I can leave my car open and no one will steal it. Or look at the quality of life here. And it's like, if you are having such a good time there, why do you need to tell me how shit the UK is? It just feels a bit like weird to do that. But I'm almost like, you're just convincing yourself that it's so good.
100%. That's exactly what I thought. And it's the socially acceptable thing, because for a coach who ostensibly cares about health and helping everybody to say, I'm going to this place because I want to pay less tax, that might work for financial influencers, but that's not going to come off very good. So obviously being Canadian, they're like, I don't know of any Canadians who are going to Dubai, but I know it's a UK thing to Dubai. I'm not sure if there's many Americans.
I don't know how you're taxed.
So we don't get exposed to as much of that, but I think it's more of a normalized thing. And of course, if coaches in the UK are seeing this, then more coaches are going to be like, oh, hey, I see this as an option. Whereas I don't think Western Canadian coaches are like, oh, Dubai is an option to change, right? If anything, Canadians are probably more likely a Canadian fitness professional who wants to, improve whatever tax situation. They'll leave Canada and they'll go to an American state that has no state income tax, right? So that's a much more accessible. And culturally similar versus a, big extreme.
Yeah. 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 It's interesting. I mean, like each to their own, but I just feel like when people do something and they're trying so hard to justify it, it's like, we know you're there for tax, that's fine. And if you're having a great time, great. But you don't need to shit on the UK.
All right. So because you mentioned interest in financial freedom, and we've actually danced around finances a little bit here, is there a relationship between having your lifestyle behavior in check and success in business and personal finance?
I think that is, but I think some people extrapolate it too much, as in like, you can't be successful in business unless you're successful in fitness and vice versa. Almost like you would need to do both.
We see this awful characters. There's one guy who went viral because he pulled his daughters up on stage about their six-pack abs, and the same guy he gets a lot of clicks, and I know he's playing the game, but he will fat shame, and he's mostly comes out of the car industry, and he will fat shame the men who, come to his seminars and talk about, that's the thing he focuses on, as if, okay, you get yourself in shape. And I mean, the whole thing comes off as really gross, but I think that's also the very extreme end of that. And that's also, engagement bait for the algorithm too.
Yeah. And look, if you're taking care of yourself, if you're healthy, will you show up for work better? Will you be generally more confident? Yeah, probably. So it is probably going to help all areas of your life. And I know that you'll probably feel the same, but as a coach, like that's the best thing. Losing fat is one thing, but seeing someone like come out of their shell, build confidence, even get out of like toxic relationships, leave jobs that they hate, go for jobs that they didn't think they could get, or I don't know, start new careers. Like that's the kind of stuff that's like, wow, it did start with you losing weight, but actually everything that you learned along the way and the self-belief that you built in yourself along the way is like translating to all areas of your life. And that's the coolest part of coaching.
The self-belief, I think that's it. And I think a lot of people are stuck in you use the term victim narrative, agree, earlier on, where you feel like, well, I have no autonomy. I have no agency about my outcome of the world. Therefore, I am a victim of circumstance. Therefore, I'm just going to do whatever the hell I want. But I think fitness is a really great gateway to inputs will equal change and result, in which case I think that can actually help someone go from more of a external locus of control to an internal locus of control. And when you experience that, I think it shows up in other places. And that's been my experience with a lot of the clients I work with, where they've changed, that they realize, wait a minute, I have power over this. And then on top of the confidence, I also suspect, like what we started with, the energy, the physical and mental energy, and all these things compound.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
So let's circle back. I think I have another quote that I liked. People think the hard weeks are the ones where you hit personal bests and nail your diet perfectly. Those are the easy weeks. The hard weeks are the weeks where you feel like giving up, but you still do something. Take me through this.
Yeah, I think people, and I often see this when I'm doing check-ins with clients, like they'll give themselves such a hard time on the weeks where they're like, everything went wrong and my kids are sick and I've not slept and I've been unwell and I had to take my parents to hospital, or my dog died, or, so like they've had literally the worst week, and then there was a leak in their house or something, but they still managed to get 2 workouts in, but they're beating themselves up that they didn't get 3. I'm like, that's the week that you normally would have absolutely blown it, massively overeaten, done no workouts, no steps, not bothered with anything. And actually you've still moved forward this week. You've still done something. They're the hard weeks, but they're the weeks that matter. And I find that rather than always pushing people forward, I think people, if they're not getting the results that they want, they're normally looking at their good days and they're like, how do I make this even better? Like, oh, if I'm trying to stick to 1,600 calories, maybe I need to stick to 1,400. If I'm trying to get 10,000 steps, maybe I need to get 15,000. If I'm trying to do 3 workouts, maybe I need to do 5. And I'm like, no, you need to look at your bad days and your bad weeks and make them a little bit better. That's going to have by far the biggest impact on your results. And when you start to realize that your results come from the average of what you do, then you start to open your eyes to that. So actually, where can you make the biggest improvement? It's the days where you're like low in it and eating over 3,000 calories as a woman and, maybe double what you need, versus like the days where you like went over your calories by 100 and maybe you should cut that back. It's like, no. You need to think about your bad days and making them less bad, for want of a better term or anything more catchy. that's going to be the biggest influence on your results. So those weeks where you've made your bad weeks like less bad and you've still done something, you've still moved forward, those are the hard weeks and those are the weeks that count. And the weeks that you're hitting PBs and stuff, they normally feel like the easiest weeks in the world. Everything's going well. You feel good. You've slept well. Your training's on point. Nothing's gone wrong. Everything's slotted into place. Like, they're easy. They're fun. They're enjoyable. They're easy. Celebrate them. But they're not the weeks that actually get you results. The weeks that get you results are the weeks that you wanted to do nothing and you still do something.
Do you think part of this is just mitigating what can become self-sabotage?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. But people don't like give themselves enough credit for that. I think because you can't see the version of you that would have responded in a different way. So maybe drawing like that, be like, right, well, you know, before we started working together or before you made all these changes, how would you have responded to that? And they're like, yeah, we'd have gone on a bender for probably weeks. They're like, yeah, okay. But what did you do? You missed one gym workout. It's not a big deal.
I'm smiling because if I've got a bunch of clients who listen to this and they're going to go, yep, we have that conversation all the time. I think that's absolutely brilliant. And and I love their responses when I ask, you know, what would have you have done before we start all this? And it's a very emphatic understanding of the difference. And then it crystallizes for them and they feel really good about it. For most people, do you think their more common state of being is the bad weeks you described or the good weeks? People are busy.
Probably somewhere in between. I think most people, you know, habitually don't have like awful weeks. It's just gradually over time, like not really looking after yourself just starts to slowly compound in a negative way. And you just need to flip that and make sure that your behaviors are compounding in a positive way.
All right. You just posted, I saw before I came on here, you posted about collagen. And I realized that I haven't had a guest yet talk about collagen. We see a lot of it being marketed, a lot of claims about it. I mean, I have a pretty good handle, I think, but I want to hear your thoughts.
I can't understand why it's so overhyped at the moment. I don't know if it's just been like, it's something different, something new that people can dig their hands into, but it's the most overhyped supplement, in my opinion. Most people that ask me about it, and this is generalized to most supplements, I would say, most people that ask me, I'm like, why are you taking it? And they're like, oh, I don't know. That'd be the first thing I'd be thinking about. If you're thinking about taking a supplement, why? Why are you taking it? And there's a small amount of evidence that it's going to increase skin elasticity and hydration. But there are so many other things that you could be doing for that. So I know that a lot of women take it for that reason. There is a little bit of research, especially in osteoarthritis, where it reduces pain and stiffness in joints. So again, if that's you, maybe that would be a good thing to take. But if you're taking it as like a replacement for protein, it is more expensive and worse. And it doesn't have like a full amino acid spectrum. So it's not going to respond the same way as like a cheaper whey protein. And yeah, I just think it's ridiculously overhyped. And there's a lot of people getting paid a lot of money to recommend it. And I think that's the hard thing now. It's almost like if you ask someone directly, do you think that that person has been paid to say that, given that it says ad and given that they, you know, they clearly have a discount code or a referral link or something? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, so you don't think that that would be a bias towards them promoting that? And it's almost like we're blind to it with like influencers or what we're seeing. And it's such a strange thing, like the way marketing works in that way. Whereas as soon as someone is recommending something in that context, I'm immediately turned off to it. And like, if you said something on your story and it wasn't an ad and it was nothing, you just like, I've just started using this and I actually think it's really helpful for X, I'd pay attention because you never push anything, right? And then, but yeah, if there was someone who's just every other week, there's something, they're clearly an influencer. They're clearly like, this is their job to do this, to push random things. They have no background in nutrition or whatever it is that they're pushing. I just think, why are we still falling for that? It's so frustrating.
I'll give a good example, right? So I technically don't have any supplement sponsors. I am sponsored by RP Strength. Anybody who's a regular listener will hear. Dr. Mike Isatel, Nick Shaw, and that crew. I've known them for years. They're friends of mine. I've gone to numerous of their seminars. I have piles of their books. These are great people. I've had Dr. Crystal Guevara speak at my conference a couple of times, right? And they have something called Genius Shot. Now, I don't have ads for Genius Shot on, it's mostly the hypertrophy app. but I've tried the Genius shot. Now you can't get it in Canada, right? So I've been like begging them to ship me up some stuff. So I got to try it when I was in the US, and these smaller bottles, and it's I guess the best, I don't know how to explain it, but the best part of whey protein. And you could take them on planes, okay? Like you can take it on
Yeah,
flights, and I
so
travel a lot.
I know these because I was hanging out with Chris Williamson,
Right.
and he was telling me about these when they were just becoming like they've just been developed, right?
Yeah. Well, he was originally part of the project, and he
Yeah.
was talking. He didn't say what it was, but he was, sort of alluding to this product he was developing with Dr. Mike Isabel. As it turns out, Chris didn't stay a part of the project. And these things are fantastic. They taste great. And I sound like an ad. I don't give a shit. I actually believe in it because, like, I'll endorse anything RP does, but I've tried them. And if I can take on a plane a smaller protein shot, this is magic. And here's another thing no one wants to talk about too. You know what I hate doing on planes is peeing a lot. Okay. I don't like getting up and going to pee a lot. So if I could have protein in a smaller thing, because guess what I'm not going to do? Unmarked baggies of white or brown powder that says not heroin, not cocaine. Okay, that doesn't work very well. Like, and right now, Canada, the US is a little bit more like, stuff between our countries. So if, I travel down there, and the last thing I want is something that's going to red flag me as I'm trying to like travel internationally. So no, that's not even an option.
And it's messy. If you're on a plane and you're getting out a little bag of protein powder, then you're trying to get it in a bottle and whatever. No, that's
not going to happen. Or you got to go to the airport and then you buy like one of the bigger size ones when you're in the airport. And of course they're marked up and expensive. And again, like, guess what? I can handle a 3-hour flight without a bloody protein drink. But to me, I actually like it. So I think that's a good example of this sort of principle. Like, I will say this, you will never have me, put an ad up for a collagen protein powder supplement on this podcast. It's never going to happen. Okay. If like whey protein and creatine, if that ever materialized sometimes, like I'm good with both of those things. Totally cool, but it won't be called.
And look, I'm always open to changing my mind. If a huge body of research suddenly came and said, hey, actually, we were wrong and this is the benefit of collagen, I highly doubt it because of how much research has already been done. But if the science changes, if we learn more, I will always change my mind on things. But for now, it's very underwhelming and overhyped.
Is any of this stuff being targeted specifically to menopausal women, postmenopausal women?
Yeah, massively. Yeah.
What's the claim there? And why would that particular demographic be more drawn to it?
I don't know if they're more drawn to it. I think they're definitely a demographic that are generally struggling more, so they'll try anything. So there's that element. And I don't know if I can remember off the top of my head any like specific claims apart from just like you're weak, estrogen has dropped, your bones are going to be in a worse state, you're going to have bone mineral density, collagen will help with that, your muscles are going to fatigue quicker, like collagen's going to help with this, skin, obviously. So like it does kind of, the marketing fits nicely with like aging women. So I guess there's that element. But I mean, I think most supplements are being marketed to perimenopausal women now because it's such an easy target, and it's a shame. It's a shame because like if you've been up all night and you're like, I will literally try anything, and this thing says, MCT oils come back. Let's come back around. Yeah. So that's now being pushed by our equivalent. I don't know what your equivalent will be, but like quite a low end soap. One of the stars on this low end soap has now started selling this MCT oil. Obviously, no nutrition background whatsoever. For some reason, we trust her because we've seen her on TV.
Are we talking about Coronation? Are we talking about Coronation Street? I grew up in Newfoundland, so we got to see a lot of Coronation Street on CBC.
I think this woman was on Hollyoaks, which is probably a worse version of that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
My American listeners probably have no idea what we're talking about. This isn't Bridgerton, right?
No. See, that would be all right. I'd be like, yeah.
Are there any other supplements that are being marketed aggressively to perimenopausal women, postmenopausal women that you're also concerned about? Because again, this is a population you work heavily with.
Honestly, anything that's heavily targeted towards them, because there's no evidence that they would specifically need any supplement. There's no evidence for perimenopausal supplements or menopausal supplements. Now, they might need the same supplements as other people. They might benefit just as much, if not more, from the same supplements. but they don't need to be marked up and heavily, promoted to this demographic. So like whey protein would be great. Vitamin D would be great in the winter for sure. But it doesn't mean that like we need this specifically for perimenopausal women.
Have you noticed there's a pink tax on a lot of these supplements?
A pink tax.
Pink tax, yeah. You familiar with that euphemism?
Yeah, it is interesting because now I actually saw today, I think it was Lauren, what's her surname again?
Lorenzo Semple, who was recently on the podcast. Is that Dr. Lauren Lorenzo Semple? Yeah.
Yeah, she'd put up something like, and it was like for women, which is obviously exactly the same as protein for men. But, you can market it slightly different and you can charge a little bit more and you can put, a little pink bow on the side of it. And it's just stupid. Same with whey protein. You'll get like women's whey protein. It's exactly the same.
So the lesson there is if you want those things, which whey, protein, and creatine are perfectly fine. They're probably very beneficial. Just go buy the regular versions, not the pink labeled for women.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. This has been spectacular. Everybody can follow you at ESG Fitness on Instagram. Where else would you send people?
If you are a coach and you would like more nutrition education, especially, then at EIQ_nutrition, or if you're a coach looking for business mentoring, then at AF Mentors.
Beautiful. I hope more people dig into your stuff. I've enjoyed this one because my favorite guests are always the people who have thoughtful nuance to the stuff, but yet, energy and enthusiasm for the things that they know as well. So you're obviously a great communicator for this stuff, and that's why I like your media so much, and it's why it was really important to get you on. So everybody, please go and follow what Emma's doing, dig in more to her stuff. And you said you have your own podcast too. What's that?
Yeah, it's called the ESG Fitness Podcast. So you can go and have a little listen there, and I'll be sending my listeners over here as well, for sure.
Beautiful. And this episode will be turning up on yours not long after, right?
Yeah.
Thank you guys again for tuning in. Emma, you've been wonderful. And again, if you guys listening really enjoyed this and you want to share Emma and her wisdom with someone in your world, because I know you guys have been sharing, I've been getting messages about this. I appreciate that. So send it to your friends and send me a message what you think about these episodes. I want to hear from you guys. And who knows, maybe I'll even listen to your input about who you want as future guests. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.